and the service of the righteous quietness and confidence forever. As we share these moments of reflection, I want to ask a few questions. Do you take the time to ponder on the sacrifice of others in your family, group, and at a national level whose sacrifices were beneficial to you as an individual? Do you express gratitude to God and to the many who have poured into you, into your complete and holistic development? Are you aware that because of your positioning, you need to do all you can to be a transformative leader in the Bahamas? Philippians chapter 2, verse 3 states, "Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourself." Denzel Washington said, "At the end, it's not about what you have or even what you have accomplished. It's about who you've lifted up, who you've made better. It's about what you've given back." As you serve in this appointment at a national level, always remember you are here for a season, and God has opened this door for you to be a person of transformation. Remember, there are many who cannot articulate or lack the resources to stand up for themselves. Do your best to represent them well. Do not try to impress others by doing what is popular, but remember, in the full scheme of things, history will celebrate those who did what was right in their time of service. National service may be at times cause you hardship and pain. Do not give up in tough times, but continue to persevere. You are stronger than you think. Study carefully the biographies of national leaders and glean from their styles or life stories lessons that will refine your leadership style. Hebrews 13:5 states, "God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you." Sheryl Sandberg said, "It is the hard days, the days that challenge you to the very core, that will determine who you are. You will be defined not just by what you have accomplished, but by how you have survived." Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the many whose sacrifices made lives better for others. May we never forget them, and may we be persons who will put service above selfish motivations. Guide each senator in their deliberations and daily work. Help them to enact laws for the good of our country. Bless, preserve, and perfect everything concerning them. In Jesus' name, amen. Please join in the prayer of our Lord. Our Father, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Good morning, Senators. Order of business for today, the 11th of May, 2022, adoption of minutes.
Madam President, I move that the minutes of the session of the Senate held on Wednesday, 4th of May, 2022 be adopted.
Is there a seconder?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the minutes of the meeting held on the 4th of May, 2022 be adopted. As many as in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion is carried. The minutes of the 4th of May, 2022 are adopted. Motion for leave of absence, leave to resign seats. Swearing in of new senators. Communications by the President. Messages from the Governor General. Messages from the House of Assembly. Laying of documents by the ministers. Communications by ministers. Communications by senators. Questions. Answers to questions. Preparation of petitions. Appointment of select committees. Reports of committees. First reading of bills. Second reading of bills. Second reading and committal of bills. Further second reading. Committee of the whole Senate. Third reading and passing of bills. Further third reading. Consideration of House amendments. Resolutions. The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Michael Halkitis.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Madam President, before I move the resolution before us today, I would just like to echo the sentiments of our chaplain and her devotion in paying tribute to the 4 brave Marines who lost their lives 42 years ago yesterday in the Flamingo incident. Those men really did make the ultimate sacrifice in defense of their country, and also pay tribute to those brave men who survived the incident, those who are still alive today, and those who have passed on. Indeed, the nation owes them a debt of gratitude, and hopefully in the not too distant future, we can give a fitting memorial and tribute to those who we have. Understand a memorial for those who have passed in the incident, for those who survived and who continue to survive today, that they could be properly honored. And so we again express our condolences to their families, and we remember them and their heroic sacrifice. Madam President, I rise to move the following resolution, and I will read the first and the last sentence in the resolution. Whereas the Accountant General of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, hereinafter called the Accountant General, a corporation sole established and existing under and by virtue of Section 4.1 of the Ministry of Finance Act, Chapter 23, Statute Law of the Bahamas, revised edition of 2000, hereinafter called the Act, and continuing pursuant to Sections 2, 10, and 131 of the Public Finance Management Act 2021, is seized in fee simple and trust for Her Majesty in right of her government of the said Commonwealth for public purposes of the hereditaments described in the schedule hereinafter called the said hereditaments. In the final paragraph, now be it resolved that pursuant to Section 5.3a of the said Act, this House approves the conveyance by the Accountant General to the Minister responsible for housing of the said hereditaments for a nominal fee of $10 in the currency of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And what we are dealing with here today, Madam President, is the conveyance of 2 parcels of land, one in the amount of 30.25 acres, and the other in the amount of 5.19 acres, situate in the southern district of New Providence, in the area of South Beach, and called by the Department of Housing Pinecrest, the purpose of which is for the Ministry of Housing to construct or have constructed affordably priced homes for Bahamians. Madam President, the renowned American psychologist Abraham Maslow, in his hierarchy of needs, at the very base of these needs, what they call the physiological needs, food, water, basic necessities, and shelter. Shelter is included amongst the basic necessities of human survival. The United Nations, in its Universal Declaration of Human Rights, declares the right to adequate housing as a component of the human right to an adequate standard of living. In addition, Madam Speaker, there have been many academic studies that point to the many positive social benefits of home ownership. Talking about stability, the fact that people who own their homes tend to move less, so there's stability in the community, and indeed the ability to build a community. They point to positive educational achievement amongst the children of those who own their own homes. Those studies point to higher levels of civic engagement and even better levels of physical and psychological health and better behavioral outcomes amongst children. And whenever we speak about academic studies, Madam President, of course, we're not talking about perfect correlation or people being perfect, but the studies suggest that because home ownership is the single most substantial and significant financial investment that most people will make in their lifetime, that the behaviors that enable someone to not only aspire to, but to achieve home ownership, saving, the aspiration for ownership, the need to save, for example, to make the down payment, the fact that there needs to be a continued commitment to maintenance of the property. These behaviors, these disciplines that are passed on to children that perhaps lead to those better social outcomes. And as I said, you don't want to say people who own homes have all of these positive attributes, but the trends do show that because of the stability, you own your home, you're not moving as much, for example, as someone who is renting, is the ability to have that stability and community building. Because of these positive social impacts of home ownership, Madam President, government should support policies that encourage that home ownership. And we know of the positive economic impact of home ownership. For example, the creation of employment through construction, the increase in consumption, because as houses are complete, they need to be furnished, they need to be provided with electricity, other services, they need to be maintained, and so that creates economic activity. And so successive administrations in the Bahamas support the expansion of home ownership. That support would vary amongst administrations. This administration, philosophically, we are committed to building homes. The previous administration in that iteration might have been more inclined to the provision of service lots where individuals would be encouraged to enter into their own private contractual agreement to build their homes. But the bottom line is home ownership is encouraged. And that encouragement would take different forms. Provision of housing by government entities, encouraging the private sector to provide that housing, or a combination of both. And lest there be any mistake, Madam President, it is not the role of government to provide all of the housing that is necessary, that is needed. It cannot. But it is the role of government to promote policies that encourage the private sector to be able to provide affordable housing. It is the responsibility of the government to enact and support policies that strengthen the economy, that create employment and financial stability, that enable people to be able to afford homes. It is also the responsibility of the government, we believe, to support agencies such as the Mortgage Corporation of the Bahamas, which would finance mortgages for individuals either coming through the Department of Housing or with their own private arrangements. This administration, we believe that it's important to build houses with the support of the Department of Housing and its partners, because there is value in being able to build a number of houses and to realize cost savings, and to be able to present to individuals a turnkey proposition where they make the application, they're approved, the house is built, and an individual is given the key, and they don't have to go through all of the arranging and contracting with an individual contractor. Another part of housing, not exactly home ownership, but which the government is involved in, Madam President, is the public rental units that the government operates through its Department of Housing and Ministry of Social Services. And so we must strive to ensure that there are adequate numbers of those units, and when necessary, we need to build more. And we need to ensure that they are maintained in a good state of repair so that people are living in adequate conditions. The government as well is responsible for fair standards when it comes to rental and rental units and maintenance under the rent control legislation, which admittedly needs to be looked at, Madam President, because as it stands now, only dwellings valued at $75,000 or less are covered under that act, and we know that that excludes the vast majority of dwellings in the country. And so we have the support of to build housing, and we must not forget the public rental units that are in New Providence, mostly situated within the center of the island. Excuse me. Madam President, you got one? Thanks. Thank you. Thank you, my colleague. I know I should have congratulated you on your recent nuptials and at the beginning.
Thank you, sir.
and also commend you on your commitment to the work of the Senate, that you came directly from there, directly to here. And so Madam President, we believe that a government's responsibilities are varied, and they go from providing that environment where private sector can provide housing, building them themselves, and in the Bahamas, we have public rental units. And I must say, Madam President, President, bit of an aside, that, many of us are here because when we had the last contest, those of us who were trying to get over there didn't quite get there. So we're here. But we did a lot of work, and we did a lot of moving around. And one of the things that struck me, Madam President, was that notwithstanding that the Bahamas is a country with a high per capita income, and we consider ourselves a fairly well-to-do country, there are certain segments in our country where we must give focused attention to improving the living conditions of people. Moving around, and just one of the first things that hit me was some of the conditions that people were living in and the need for government to intervene immediately. And that is why I was so happy to see last week the Minister of Social Services and his Minister of State, the member for West End and Bimini and the member for Marathon, announcing that the Urban Renewal Small Home Repair Program would be relaunched because the need is so great when it comes to improving those living conditions of people. And again, that is an important element of government. We believe government responsibility as well to be able to assist in those areas. I remember it was shortly after the 2012 general election, speaking to then Prime Minister Christie, speaking about such a program and being able to, in a small way, alleviate the conditions of individuals, and the concentration on that at that time was helping people fix their roof. We start with that. We put a limit in, and we said we're gonna start with that. And I think it was a tremendous success. Few hiccups at the start. I think those were worked out, and it was a tremendous success. And I think, again, it will be a tremendous success because it will serve two purposes: improving conditions and providing employment. And because of the nature of the program, it is encouraged that the employment is provided to those people right within those communities. And we look forward to that relaunch and the effect that it will have on improving people's living conditions, Madam President. There are, of course, barriers. And one of the most striking barriers to me, Madam President, I remember years ago when I purchased a property. I said, as a young man, I'm going to purchase a property and eventually build a home. And there was a chap that Brother Henfield would know by the name of Ma Hughes. He was a former captain at BDF, and then when he retired, he went into real estate and showed me a piece of property, and he said, X is the price. I said, okay. Called the bank. He said, yeah, well, 10% down. I said, okay, I have that. Till you end up at the bank, right? And it's the 10% down, 1% commitment fee, 2% legal fee, insurance, stamp tax. And then so what you thought was a 10% down, all of a sudden becomes many, many thousands of dollars more. And you're looking at what you're supposed to do. You're just talking about getting the loan to buy the lot. You think you see, okay, 10% down, okay. And then I always had an issue with what is a commitment fee? I mean, just to say yes. We charge you $1,500. And so high closing costs. And I remember back in 2003, it was, and trying to do something about this when the administration at the time, under the first Christie administration, introduced the stamp tax exemption for first-time homeowners. $250,000 or less, you didn't have to pay the stamp tax if it was your first home. And I remember the subsequent administration, the Hubert Ingram administration of 2007, they raised the limit to $500,000. They raised it to $500,000. And but I take this as a demonstration that, again, a commitment that, okay, there's a need to do something about closing costs, and then, expand the reach, I think, because there was some administrative issues as well, but expand the range of those who could qualify. Coming back in 2015, again, you recognize that people who have recently built, they've probably exhausted all of their savings, and they're financed up to the max when they move into their home. And so at that point, we implemented a program of no real property tax for the first 5 years for individuals whose houses were worth $500,000 or less. And at the same time, there was some also with real property tax and discounts for senior citizens. So for retirees, they were able to get a 50% discount. But it shows that there are barriers, high closing costs, and governments can do some things about it, because the feeling is that what you should really do is reduce the amount of cost to close a transaction, and so that you encourage more ownership and even more activity within the real estate industry. And so those were things that were done, and we continue to look at ways to ease that burden so we could encourage home ownership, and we continue to do that and continue to seek out ways that the government can assist. Another major challenge going on right now, Madam President, is this whole issue of high inflation and how it has hit building materials, how it has hit everything, how it has hit food, and how that is a topic of discussion and continuously, particularly as it relates to food and what can the government do. I think as it relates to the cost of building materials, Madam President, this is a good time for us to explore the use of alternative building materials, maybe alternative building methods, of course, that meet the building code, can withstand hurricanes, but seek out and begin to use some of these building strategies and building practices that will lower the cost of construction. Perhaps it might mean fewer persons employed in the construction, but that savings could be deployed elsewhere. I want to touch too, just briefly, a bit of I spoke about inflation and the building costs, and there's, food inflation, Madam President, is an issue that is vexing, that is affecting us, that is affecting other countries around the region. And it is something that we are studying, and we are seeking ways in which we can assist. There was a story in the, I think it started on social media, and then it ended up in the papers this morning, Madam President, saying that government has authorized increases in breadbasket items. So you have it right there. Yeah, it has me on the front page. I don't mean to laugh. I'm just, I have to be careful when I laugh, because I don't want it to be seen as unsympathetic. But I will just say this: there is no general authorization in the increase in the price of breadbasket items, Madam President. The situation operates like this: you have items that are in the breadbasket that are price controlled. For example, in the stories mentioned, corned beef. You have various brands. I won't call any brands. You have Libby's, you have Devon, you have Grace, you have Triple B, you have all of these brands. And what happens is, when an importer imports an item, if his price has gone up, in a nutshell, he applies to the Prices Commission. If he is importing, for the sake of argument, ABC corned beef, he applies, and his price has gone up on that item, he applies for the margin to be applied on his higher cost of that particular item. So when it is said that the government authorized an increase in the price of corned beef, it is not every single brand, every corned beef across the board. It is a particular brand. I laid some of those orders last week here in the Senate, Madam President, and we can see, for example, that when I laid some in April, and so this one was Western Oil, and then there was one for Land O'Lakes butter and Gold Medal flour. And so it's not in this case, it's not all flour. And in this other case, it's not all cooking oil. It is this, that when wholesalers import, if their prices have gone up, they apply to the commission so that their new cost is recognized. So it might be asked, well, why don't you just not approve it? Well, a few things can happen. Over the years, it's been the practice that is the practice. People import, apply for the margin to be applied at their higher cost. You decide to not do it, then either they're stuck. So you might have to make them whole or do something else for them. Or they might decide, well, I'm not importing it. I can't get it. The government is not exercising good faith. This has been the practice since 1971 when price control was introduced. And so you can either get individuals stuck with items and they have to eat the cost, okay. Or they might decide, I'm not going to import it, and then you don't have the item on the shelf. So it's a vexing issue, Madam President, because nobody wants to see costs go up. I'm often asked, and I try to be as open, I'm as open and accessible as possible when I provide these answers. And the issue is the imported inflation. We import so many things, and we experience the inflation. Today, new data is expected to come out in the US showing that perhaps it has peaked, hopefully. And so we can see this matter starting to moderate. But I don't want the Bahamian public to be left with the impression that the government is unconcerned or the government is callous. We are limited in the tools in our toolbox to deal with it. We're exploring a number of things right now, and the public will hear some things very shortly. But again, we have to be very measured in what we do. And I just wanted to say that, Madam President, so the public is assured that we're not talking about a general increase in everything. Every time a specific item is imported, then authorization is sought for that particular brand. And of course, again, price can go up, it's a negative. That's perhaps not a comfort, but I just want the public to be assured that it is not something that we take lightly. In terms of housing, back to the housing resolution, Madam President, there's much more left to be done. We must build more public rental units. And one thing I learned that I didn't know was that in those public rental units, and in many of them, there were provided sort of like efficiencies for senior citizens at a discounted rate, even from the general rate that others would pay. And that's important because I'm sure we have all seen the instances of the elderly living, perhaps their children have gone and they're alone and they're living in substandard conditions. And to the extent that we can have more of those units made available, particularly to the elderly. As I said, repair and maintenance of public rental units, they must be kept in good repair, and it's important that the residents also endeavor to upkeep those and maintain them as if it were their own. The issue of land is scarce. like they say, they're not making any more, except in Dubai, where they make those islands that sink into the sea. But there's no more land being made, and so we're moving further and further out in the what we call the outskirts of New Providence. Even that is being consumed, and so I think it's what we have to do again is begin to look back into the center of the island and perhaps rejuvenate some of those communities that have fallen into a state of disrepair and decline, and go back into those communities because the roads are already there, the electricity is already, the infrastructure is already there. And so perhaps if we can identify some of those derelict properties that can be either cleared, dilapidated structures on them, those demolished, and housing built there. I understand that to put infrastructure on a new lot, just to put infrastructure into a subdivision can go up to $40,000 per lot, is one quote I heard. So if we want to go back into these areas, into the Grove, into the Bain Town, the Camp Road, the Anglican, those areas where infrastructure is there, perhaps there's dilapidated housing or vacant land, we can identify the owners and acquire them and provide housing. What it will do, it will help to rejuvenate those communities as well, Madam President. It's important for us to ensure that this economic recovery that we are experiencing is spread to the family islands so that individuals can be confident in moving to the islands, moving to Grand Bahama, to Abaco, Andros, those areas, and have adequate employment that can sustain themselves and their families and have access to affordable housing. That's a more long-term solution. We need to build more houses, and we need to look at diversifying away from the strict detached house and other, perhaps townhomes. And I understand that is in the works for the Ministry of Housing because people's attitudes to housing has changed as well. In the past it was single house on the lot, fenced around. Now people are prepared to have a townhouse or semi-detached. The attitudes towards housing have changed. But we definitely need to build more. We need to invest and continue that urban renewal small home repair program, and we need to expand it because there are people who they do not want to live in substandard housing, but they may find themselves indigent, they find themselves elderly, they may find themselves disabled, and they cannot afford to improve it. And that is where the state comes in. Because I recall, Madam President, just again, walking around and experiencing and seeing some of the conditions and walking away saying this shouldn't happen in 2021 in a wealthy country, because we're a relatively wealthy country, like the Bahamas. We have the resources and that we can incrementally attack the problem of lack of housing or indeed substandard housing. And we believe, Madam President, that this is one step in improving and increasing the housing stock and helping Bahamians, in this case, 47 Bahamian families realize that Bahamian dream of home ownership and the security and the confidence and the sense of achievement that it provides, and the generational impact of it, where particularly for first-time homeowners, those children growing up in that home do not need to know what it is to be renting and moving from place to place. And so with those few words, Madam President, I commend the resolution to the Senate, if I may obtain a second.
Is there a seconder? The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Randy Roll.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I too wish to stand and second the resolution on housing. But before I get started, I also want to take this opportunity to congratulate my childhood friend, AG, the Honorable Ryan Pinder. I remember back when he got into running for office within the party. I quickly followed suit and ran for office as well. Then he got into politics. I followed suit again, so I hope this is another trend. But in any event, he's an honorable man. And I congratulate him.
I should have stayed in Luther.
I also, before I get started, want to send greetings to Beryl Stewart there in 8 Mile Rock, Grand Bahama, and of course all of my friends and family in the island of Bimini. Madam President and honorable members, good afternoon. I am pleased to present to you on a topic that everyone ought to be mindful of. It is something so rudimentary and so simple, yet often forgotten and ignored. It's the ability to listen. Matthew Henry once said, "No one is as deaf as those who chose not to listen. None so blind as those that will not see." Our people voiced their displeasure with the previous administration. Numerous complaints and concerns were heard, but former honorable members did not listen to verbal communication nor acknowledge non-verbal cues. We in the PLP, we as in our leader, Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Philip Edward Davis, in the aftermath of Dorian, one cannot put into words the impact on our brothers and sisters in the Northern Bahamas. At that time, the Davis administration was not in existence, and partisan politics was put to the side. Prime Minister Davis volunteered his services, along with others whose offers were also refused. Nonetheless, several teams were deployed and were on the grounds physically providing relief whenever we could, despite refusal. Without knowing it, the Davis brand was in the making. Madam President, colleagues, I would like for you to keep in mind that there is an order to chaos. And out of total chaos and destruction, the most beautiful things happen. In the face of this tragedy, as a people, we persevered and we unified. Our countrymen went above and beyond to assist and provide relief while still conducting business and adapting to our new norms. Additionally, the outpours from our partners, stakeholders, and international community was nothing short of godsend. It was at this time I remembered a line from one of the most important songs in our lifetime, a line which is also the title of our national anthem, March on Bahama Land. It is my belief that we receive these blessings because, one, Abaco and Grand Bahama had been decimated. Two, the previous administration couldn't and didn't plan for a disaster of this magnitude, nor were they open to suggestions. The actions that ensued are still being assessed. Even though VAT had been increased to 12%, financially the public purse couldn't solely absorb the costs and fees associated with rebuilding and providing relief, especially after purchasing a hotel that the community at large advised against. Once again, listening. Our international initiative partners, outreach programs, and our principled reputation shed a positive light on our island nation and encouraged many to lend assistance. Complete restoration in Grand Bahama and Abaco is an ongoing process and is personal for many of us. We, as a nation, suffered. We know the cries. We heard the cries and we listened. We have good and effective representation on the ground in Grand Bahama and Abaco, and still present and providing stellar service. Fast forward to today. Madam President, selective and defensive listening often proves to be detrimental, as the devils are in the details. We can all agree that someone clearly didn't listen, and like Grammy used to say, when you don't listen, you will feel. I'm not calling any names, but you whistle and I'll point. If they had listened, we might have been on the other side of the table. What's worse than corruption is the illusion of integrity. For 4 years of the people's time, many promises had been made, one of which was providing affordable housing for our young professionals. The housing dream had been sold and bought by thousands of Bahamians that had made application for consideration and approval for service lots under the Young Professional Community Project, which never materialized. After the housing fiasco, which disappointed and somewhat disenfranchised a number of young potential homeowners, not only did we watch, we also listened. That gave us the opportunity to engage in private-public partnership agreements with accredited developers. In doing so, we were able to implement a structured research and development plan that ensures adherence to industry best practices. In support of Homes for Bahamians, initiatives and Home Sweet Home housing program, we have conducted a number of inspections and site visits that will address queries and concerns. It is our goal to provide structurally sound, resilient, cost-effective housing. We all know that change is often met with resistance. And Madam President, in this new day, we are not a Google, copy and paste, Photoshop type of administration.
Yes, that's true.
We are hands-on and thorough. We are now the new normal. The basic demand and supply conundrum was a hindrance. However, we are now addressing the needs for affordable turnkey housing. Our solution to that problem was to procure several parcels of land that would be affordable and able to accommodate a number of families. True to our word, groundbreaking for Pinecrest Subdivision was in January 2022. This is another milestone that proves that we are delivering on our commitment to create and provide affordable housing. Not to mention that we are also growing the dismantled middle class as new subdivisions not only rejuvenate the community, it improves the infrastructure and it also increases market value that will ultimately attract an influx of businesses to those areas. And by saying that, if you drive down Bay Street, Madam President, and you look at all the homes that are, all the buildings, you know, these areas can easily be enhanced when, you know, we help to build those structures, and some of it could be with homes, but I'll talk about that later in my presentation. Leading the charge for change and homeowner empowerment is the Minister of Transport and Housing, and she is doing a phenomenal job. With the planning and execution of those projects, we can also thank her for spearheading the reformation of the Department of Housing. Madam President, I am not a financial services expert. At the table, as a matter of fact, we have two experts seated here with us today. This is just me speaking from the heart, and I'm sure that they will correct me if I'm out of turn, or they will see my vision and bring it to fruition. Let me explain. Yes, we are providing affordable homes for young professionals, but there's always much more that can be done. We can do more for those who have had the misfortune of having their homes repossessed. It is understood that financial institutions are businesses. They are entities mandated to make and retain money, and unfortunately, those who fell on hard times now find themselves in the lower socioeconomic demographic and had to invent ways to survive and make the most of gifts and talents. My fellow colleagues, Bahamians' ingenuity is usually born out of necessity. A few months ago, I met a lady at road traffic. She was washed away in tears and on the verge of a meltdown. I had to stop and ask her if everything was okay. She tried to respond, but was so distraught that her response was barely audible. She calmed herself down a bit and was finally able to tell me her story. She had lost her job during the pandemic and had to do odd jobs whenever she could to provide for her family. She was counting on NIB unemployment benefits to subsidize her wages. But to her dismay, her former employees never gave her a termination letter. To add insult to injury, she also found out that her employers hadn't been making any contributions for her. She therefore was ineligible, nor could she apply for NIB unemployment benefits. In essence, she couldn't maintain the lifestyle to which she and her family had become accustomed. She had to choose between food, transportation, or a roof over her head. Her vehicle became her transportation and home for a family of three. They ate in that vehicle. They slept in that vehicle. They often found themselves bathing at the beach. The dilemma did not stop there. Due to her new circumstances, she could not license her vehicle annually. Again, she had to choose to use the money to provide for her family and put fuel in her vehicle or starve and has no access to her vehicle. As it relates to the Department of Road Traffic, the previous administration implemented a ruling that all outstanding payments had to be satisfied before issuance of a new license. Believe it or not, she did not know about the new rule until she went to road traffic to finally license her vehicle. That's when she found out that she owed more than $800 in back pay. She almost starved trying to save $200 to license the vehicle. That was her breaking point. She went on to say that she was paying her landlord for years, and if she was allowed to make a sound investment, she would have been in a better position. She said that she went to the bank years ago and applied for a mortgage. She was denied even though she had met all the requirements. Had she been granted a mortgage, undoubtedly that mortgage would have been paid off, or she would have at least had a roof over her head. She had a lot to unpack and needed a listening ear. I empathized with her. She needed a silver lining. So I gave her a couple of dollars. She was so overwhelmed and thankful. Even though she still had other issues to overcome, it was one less headache. And so, before I go on, I even want to appeal to, my administration and the Minister of Housing and Transport now to look at this rule and to see how best that we can be there for Bahamians who have gone through hard times and simply need a little help. Given the global climate, financially lending institutions can no longer make the profits that they once did. As hard as one may try, you can't squeeze water out of a stone. The problem is lending institutions do not want to lose out on the extra profit. And we can all agree that no business endeavors to suffer losses. However, there should also be a human element. But it seems preferable to evict families and keep empty houses as opposed to reassessing the purchaser's current predicament and the new physical climate to come to new mutually beneficial agreements. Some might argue that this is a standard collection procedure, which is probably true. But what is it if there is an alternative to the norm? Options that will maximize and satisfy all parties involved. I would like to offer two submissions. Firstly, by implementing a buyback program. If a loan is in default, forgive the interest and apply funds directly to the principal. This is, of course, comes with stipulations, and these models won't suit everyone. Assess the borrower's current financial situation. Reduce payments and interest based on the borrower's ability to repay debt. All interest can be written off once the principal is collected. For example, prior to receiving a loan, during the application process, you will be profiled and assessed by the lending institution. If it was agreed that you qualified for a loan of $100,000, but due to hard times and a shift in your income, you can only comfortably pay and qualify for a $75,000 loan, the institution should write off the additional $25,000. Stop trying to collect on outstanding payments. It can be done. It's just not a popular option. Option two, perhaps a public-private partnership can be established between the government by way of the Bahamas Mortgage Corporation and lending institutions, whereby distressed and repossessed homes are purchased systematically using a plan similar to that as what I had previously mentioned, thereby increasing the availability of affordable housing while simultaneously lowering the delinquency of the lending institution. I'm merely thinking out loud. My brothers and sisters, we are listening, and we are here to serve and provide great representation. Great representation is being attentive, approachable, and accessible with the ability to listen and to act in the best interests of people, even in the face of adversity. We understood that there is a call to action and did just that. That speaks volumes. Not only are we with you, but we are also here for you. On September 16th, 2021, the Bahamian people spoke again as they elected the Davis administration as the new governing body. This administration is positioned to positively bring change. In keeping with our blueprint and for record-keeping purposes to date, please note a few of the things that we have accomplished. The opening of a new airport in Ragged Island. VAT was reduced. Reopening of the straw market. The relaunch of urban renewal. Reopening of schools amid the pandemic. Free COVID testing. weekly press updates, the additional hiring of doctors and nurses, lump sum payments for the unemployed, new HOA signing for a $200 million resort that will create at least 500 jobs, refurbishment of sporting facilities in New Providence, public service pension increases, and the passing of legislation for carbon credits and a white paper on cryptocurrency, thereby creating new streams of revenue. The list goes on. Keep in mind that the Davis administration is only 7 months and 25 days old, and there is already a number of initiatives that are underway that will further solidify the Bahamas as a global powerhouse. All of this is accomplished by simply listening, deeply and fully listening to understand and to learn. In doing so, we were able to provide much needed solution to outstanding problems. I'm going to close expressing the same sentiments that I began with. No one is as deaf as those who chose not to listen. None so blind as those that will not see. Madam President, honorable members, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Senator Roll. It has been moved and seconded that the following resolution be agreed. Whereas the Accountant General of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, hereinafter called the Accountant General, or corporation so established and existing under and by virtue of Section 4.1 of the Ministry of Finance Act, Chapter 23, the Statute Laws of the Bahamas, revised edition of 2000, hereinafter called the said Act, and continuing pursuant to Section 2, 10, and 131 of the Public Finance Management Act 2021, is seized in fee simple, in trust of Her Majesty, in right of a government of the said Commonwealth, for the public purpose of the said here indictments described in the schedule hereto, hereinafter called the said here indictments. Now therefore, be it resolved that pursuant to Section 5, subsection 3, subsection A of the said Act, this House approves the conveyance by the Accountant General to the Minister responsible for housing of the said here indictments for a nominal fee of $10 in the currency of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. As many? The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Reuben Raming.
Thank you, Madam President, and welcome back again. It's good to see you. Hope you and your family are in good health.
Thank you, Senator.
And hope you are made to be the queen that you are on Mother's Day, and a belated Mother's Day to all the senators in their respective place. And my congratulations to my daughter's fan, the Attorney General. My daughter's a fan of his. I keep cracking him with that. On his wedding. And yes, I'm dressed in the wedding colors, but apparently I live in Foxville, so I got the invitation late. Yeah. How was that? all blessing. I think some of us would have had some good tenure in marriage, so feel free to remember the song "Lean on Me." when you're strong, or your experience. I rise as a part of this bill, Madam President, and also to give my input in the interest of the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. I agree with the former senator who just spoke, said about those who have the deficiency in hearing and in sight. I think the Bible says, he that has the ear, let him hear what the Spirit say unto the church. And it causes me to remember the character called Colonel Klink in Hulk Hogan Heroes, whose refrain was, I see nothing, I hear nothing. Then we also hear about the adage of the blind leading the blind. God has kept this Commonwealth for some time, and I do believe that God will never leave us or forsake us. But we have made many good strides in both administration and many missteps. I think the adage of persons not wanting to hear or persons not wanting to see is critical to leadership, because it will express the level of effectiveness that we can anticipate. We must learn from our history, because it empowers us to make effective decisions in plotting our course going forward. Many of our government corporations and many government initiatives has been plagued with not only cost overruns, but great inefficiencies and abuses, some to scandalous levels. And the matters relating to housing is no different. I frankly remember, like the arms race, there was a housing race where governments would tout how many homes they built in a single year. And I think at that point in time, they were doing an average of probably over 1,000 homes. And that was the refrain, but few people would stand up and speak about how many houses were poorly constructed, how many houses were abandoned, how many houses had to be stripped down and rebuilt, how many persons were in houses that before they even get warmed up in the first quarter of their mortgage payment, that extensive repairs and renovation had to be done to the homes. The cost overruns impacting them. And I have to admit the truth that the government's intervention in housing is needed, but has been a minefield of abuse and inefficiencies throughout the life of our country. We have heard about instances where persons who would have moved in, been living in houses, saying the MP gave them the key or whoever was in charge at that time, and after numerous years hadn't even paid the first mortgage payment. We see the plight of the mortgage corporation and all the arrears, which makes it difficult for the mortgage corporation to pay its bond that it used to raise funds for the construction of the homes. We see right now the plight of NIB and it potentially becoming insolvent if nothing is done effectively by the end of this term. That's how swift it is. And we know NIB has been used as a major funder for the government, including matters as it relates to housing. And it's almost tragic that when that is done, in some instances, the value of the asset don't meet the cost of the outlay loan to secure the asset. I'd been asking around, and I don't recall anyone saying what will be the purchase cost of the homes in the Pinecrest area, and I was wondering what those homes would have been, because the question of low cost is a relative term, and it's very, very important to anybody who seeks to get a mortgage. And I would like to know if somebody knows that figure, estimated cost. Anybody? Yeah, because I was trying to Google it and trying to recall it. 200,000. Because this is my concern as relate to that matter. That's a big number. Can you round it out? 60, 160, or about 185? Okay, just roughly. Because here it is right now. I still remember, and it's hard to forget, the plight of the people in the Pinewood constituency. But
Not to, just to provide, Madam President, the member, the senator asked, the prices I am advised will range between 160 and 190,000. 160 to 190.
okay, so the prices would be around about 160 odd thousand. I'll come back to that in a second. The thing about it is, in the Pinewood constituency, I think we would say that that is one of the historic development disasters in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. It amazed me that even right now, there are persons who are still tied into mortgages in homes where the houses are literally, frankly, falling down around them, collapsing in. We hadn't even reached the issue of flooding. You can walk in and around the houses, especially the ones with the concrete roofs, and you can see the rusted rebar because of shabby workmanship. At that time, our legislation as it relates to subdivision planning was very, very weak, and I commend our administration for strengthening the Subdivision Act and also for the improvement of the building code. But these people are locked in to not only an area, and not all areas of Pinewood flood. We use it so in a blanket effect that I think it does discredit to so many people. There are some houses I smile and I tell people, you all get Atlantis and Pinewood. Because some people keep their houses very, very well and it is good. But there are many still nonetheless that have these situations. I clearly recall being in a house where a mother, just by gut instinct, just something just told her just to walk in the room and move the child that was sleeping. And as soon as she walked in the hallway, a slab of concrete fell right in the bed, right where the child was. Literally. There was another resident who told me of the story of how a relative was hit by a slab of concrete that fell from the roof in the head and later on died. We have persons living in houses that are also condemned. But they were tied to a mortgage from a sweet deal, but the level of constructions and the considerations was not as it should be. And so when you look at it, just at before I get that, when we develop these properties, we must realize that the homes are the single largest investment that the average person would actually make. And they are hoping that a home does not go the way of an automobile. You smile and brag about that $60,000, that's a cheap Mercedes, that you got, and boy, it's $60,000. I say, how long ago you got it? Man, I had this 2 weeks. I say, it ain't $60,000 no more. As soon as you pull off that lot, that value goes down. Because that's how it is with automobiles, but that should not be the case with houses. So when we are developing houses, we must be very, very careful about how we go about it to ensure that at the end of the day, when somebody pays an average 25-year mortgage on a house, that they don't end up with something that is worth 2 to 3 times less than what they pay. The mortgage becomes a mere convenience, but a debt trap. I'll give you an example. We have now, the administration touts the Pinecrest development, and we saw the issue with the flooding in that regard. We saw the photos. And I heard the argument from the minister as relate to that, and people calling it fake news. Well, I see the flooding, I know flooding when I see it. But the statement I heard today from the minister is that the flooding part will be addressed in phase 2. Yeah. I heard that on the news today. And I smiled. It's like, oh, wow. Talk about a plan. The thing about putting fill on the ground,
Madam President, I rise for a point of clarification.
you can only clarify if it's something you said or something rising out of your speech.
Excuse me.
All I said,
Madam President, the member is
Order.
misleading the public.
how am I
Chair,
mistaken? All I
the
said is
chair-
what she said.
Can you take your seat, please, Senator Rubin?
Yeah.
The chair recognizes Senator
Member-
the Honorable Darren Spickstock. Please proceed, Senator Spickstock.
Madam President, the member is misleading the public by indicating that the plan that the government has in place, which is the drainage plan, which will be implemented in phase 2, simply means that no fill is on the ground as yet in the community, and the drainage plan is being implemented right into the community. And so these things will be addressed, but the way he is speaking about it, absolutely. The minister never said that there was any flooding in the community. Okay?
Thank you,
No.
Senator Spickstock.
Neither did I say that the minister said that there was any flooding in the area. Only thing I said is that the minister
Wait,
said
order,
flooding
order.
issues will be addressed in phase
Order.
2.
So she said,
And that is related to the drainage and whatever else that they're gonna put in there as it relates to that. And why it says the flooding issues, because as you see in your photos right here, it is flooding now. And if there is a remediation problem, it is to address that.
Senator-
What is the problem?
Yeah.
Senator Raming.
Again.
Yes.
Senator Raming.
And so what's the point of the issue?
Senator
What's the issue?
Senator Spickstock. Senator Raming, do you have documents to table with respect to what you're saying?
I need to table documents if someone is prepared to stand.
No,
and
you're
deny.
saying, you're saying,
I heard today
There wa-
on the news a quote in the minister's voice that in phase 2, that will be addressed.
what is that?
Okay?
are you,
I said what that was. The matters relating to the flooding and drainage
Senator-
and those matters will be addressed. Now, if you want, I'm
Senator
talking to the
Raming,
president. If you want,
Senator
me
Raming,
to have
let's,
it printed out,
no, Senator Raming, let's get some order in here. Firstly, your statement, do you have evidence to support what you're saying? If you do not, I ask that you will withdraw or I will strike it from the record.
Yeah. I'll withdraw the statement related to the minister saying that the matter will be addressed in phase 2.
And I need you to withdraw the statement with respect to the flooding because you have no evidence to support that.
Okay. These are the homes in.
No. Those, I see water. I don't see the definition of flooding or what it means. So kindly withdraw that as where? No. There's Senator Hanfield, please take your seat. Please take your seat.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm on the floor. I'm speaking.
Okay.
Senator Raming, please take your seat as well. Now, based on the pictures that I can see from here, I see water. We do not have the definition of flooding. Until you can provide me with a definition of flooding, that will also be struck from the record. Senator Raming, can you please proceed with your contribution to debate? And can we move on? Thank you.
Madam President, I have a point of order here.
Senator Hanfield, can you please state your point of order?
I think,
What is your point of order, Senator Hanfield?
Madam President, there is no way.
Senator Hanfield, can you please state your point of order?
How many people is the president here? How many people? You have to protect us as well as we
I
protect them.
asked you for a point of order.
Order.
You responded to Senator Young.
The chair is asking the member to define flooding. I mean, I find that incredulous.
Senator Raming, it doesn't appear as
Madam President,
Senator
Pinewood-
Hanfield, it
Pinewood
doesn't
is-
appear.
Pinewood
The chair is speaking. The chair is speaking. The chair is speaking.
You have to let somebody
Both
speak.
you and I cannot speak at the same time.
But you have to let me speak when I
Both
stand.
you and I cannot speak at the same time. The chair is speaking. Can you please resume your
Madam
seat?
President, you cannot use your chair as a
Please
bully pulpit.
resume your
You have
seat.
to allow us fair debate.
And you must respect the chair. And you must respect the rules of the
I show
Senate.
most deference to the chair.
And so do I.
When I
I
believe we're
respect
being
the
abused-
senators.
When I believe we're being abused, it is my duty to stand up and say so. And I believe this is
Can you
this
please
is abuse.
can you please resume your seat?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Please proceed, Senator Reuben Ramming, with your contribution. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I instructed the clerk to present a document which I will speak to in relation to this matter from the Nassau Guardian of today. And I will speak to another portion of this.
Senator Ramming, let's get the rules. You're looking at your laptop.
Yes, because I sent the clerk to print the matter out.
No, when she brings the printed paper, then you can speak from it, because you have nothing to lay at this time. You have no documents to table.
But in short, the minister says that in the phase 2 section that the Minister of Work will also begin to implement their drainage plan as related to that. And so in short, as has been circulated and been witnessed by myself and a lot of persons as right now, and as intimated, currently the situation in the Pinecrest area has been underwater and severely impacted, especially during the heavy rains. And as the Attorney General had begun to indicate.
Senator Ramming, we keep going around in circles here. You're referring to Pinecrest being underwater and severely impacted.
By the rain.
What is the evidence to support that, Senator Ramming? Senator Ramming, we're here to do the people's business.
I was there. And it is public knowledge. And it is demonstrated by the need for drain to be placed in that area. And Pinecrest is within the scope of my purview as a former member of Parliament. I know of which I speak, ma'am. And on top of that, I will just table to you the minister's response. And I wouldn't even go on with this because the truth is obvious. The minister responds, and I adopt as my own the business section of the Guardian, Wednesday, the 11th of May, 2022. I adopt as my own, and I remind you of what Senator Roll said, which is clearly demonstrated here. When you don't want hear and you don't want see, that's how you're going to lead. I lay this to the table and adopt this as my own.
Exactly what are you laying and exactly what are you adopting as your own?
That has been recorded, attributed to the Minister Colby Davis.
And are you prepared to adopt the entire statement as your own?
Said that,
The entire statement.
The entire statement. So now you must, Senator Ramming, could you please read the entire statement if you intend to adopt it as your own?
After heavy rain.
Yeah, but it clarifies. You can't.
No,
You can't pick and pull what you want to state from the article.
I'm going to read it as well.
No, I sure you would.
I have it right here. You want I highlight?
I'll adopt this particular section.
Senator Ramming, Senator Ramming.
You told me to read, but I will adopt.
Senator Ramming, that's not what I said. Senator Ramming, listen to me carefully. We're going based on the rule book. You have to adopt the entire article as your own.
Which I said, and then it was stated to read the section.
I didn't say to read the section.
All right, well, I did adopt it. I don't know why we'd be going back over this. I did.
If you adopt the article as your own, we would leave it there. The entire article.
Pinecrest does have a major issue with flooding, and the remediated effort is to, in phase 2, install.
May I see the article, please?
Install. I am further going on.
No, you can't.
Would you prefer if I read the article in its entirety, Senator Ramming?
Going on. What I'm saying, I said, but she said that they're going to put systems in for drainage in Pinecrest. I am saying, as a resident, and from my knowledge, unless somebody's refuting and just simply willing to tell me that Pinecrest does not, that area does not have.
You're not the expert.
The burden is you denying it? Are you denying it for me to refute it?
Senator Ramming,
Madam President.
No, you don't put it.
Senator Ramming, please resume your seat. The chair recognizes Senator Barry Griffith.
Madam President, I rise on a point of order in that the member or the senator continues to mislead the Senate. The point of clarification, or the point that we're getting to, is that he misquoted the minister in stating that there were, in fact, flooding issues. So that's the first point he needs to clarify. Either he lays the evidence that the minister agreed and said that there were flooding issues, or he needs to completely withdraw that. So that's the first point. And the second point is he does, in fact, need to adopt the entire article as his own and lay that down into the Parliament. If not, he cannot refer to the article.
I thank you. I think that if I understand Senator Rahming correctly, Senator Rahming, you have withdrawn and we have struck from the record the remarks with respect to the flooding. That's correct, right? So Senator Rahming is also adopting the entire article as his own in its entirety. So if you're going to refer to the article, Senator Rahming, you'll have to read the entire article, and you cannot pick and pull what you want to read, because otherwise you'll be misleading the Senate and misleading the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and I don't think that that is your intention, sir. Senator, can we please proceed?
Yeah, let's proceed in the interest. Thank you very much, Madam President. In the interest of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. You know, it is what it is. So we'll let that rest right there, Madam.
Are you tabling the article, Senator Rahming?
When I table it, it got both. When I do it, bam, again, I said, if you check the Hansard, when I said I was tabling the article.
Well, if you're tabling it, you have to initial it and send it up to the chair. That's why I'm trying to.
Yeah, that's what I was actually in the process of doing it. I started passing it on.
Can you please proceed with tabling the article? Right. Thank you.
You know what? That's not, leave the whole thing. That's not important right now.
So you're not tabling the article?
The issue is.
Please.
Yeah, the issue is.
Senator Rahming, let's be clear here.
It is just.
Senator Rahming, can you please address the chair?
That the public can see.
Can you please address the chair? Are you not? You would have to. You need to sign.
Hey, listen.
Can you wait a minute? He has to sign the article before it's tabled, please. Thank you. That's for order and procedure. Thank you.
Of all the things, yeah. Of all the things, yeah. No, it is interesting.
This is the people he intended to rely on. Yeah. This is the people he intended to rely on.
There's D3 as well.
He can, if he tables it.
Yeah. Listen. Madam President, thank you. Madam President, thank you very much.
You think he can
Order. The chair recognizes.
Madam President.
Can you please proceed, Senator Rahming?
Thank you very much, because to me this argument is as futile, apart from respecting the rule, as saying prove there was flooding in Dorian. But I accept it. My point that I'm making is that now the average person who goes in these developments, and we've seen from past experience.
Madam Chair, I wish to stand on a point of clarification in the rules. I'm on page 26 of the rules of procedure. Listen, you're not the president. This ain't no time to play, you know. You're not the president, right? You're not the president, man. Relax.
Can you please address the president, Senator Henfield?
But these members have to allow me to address the chair. Just give me an opportunity.
Go ahead, Brett. Go ahead, Senator Henfield.
All right, I'm looking at Rule 31.1 on page 26. And it says, every senator desiring to speak shall rise and address the chair. A senator may read extracts from books, journals, papers, and documents, and may refresh his memory from notes. But he shall not quote from the newspaper unless he adopts such quotation as his own words. How are we going to ask him to adopt the entire article? And the rules clearly state that he's only required to adopt the quotation that he determines to use. It is absolutely absurd, in my view, that we would ask members in this place to adopt an entire article written by someone when they only want to reference a particular section of the article. That is opposed to the rules. It is wrong. Now, if you're asking the member to adopt that portion of the article as his own that he has quoted, that is fine. That is within the four corners of the rules. Madam President.
Senator
But
Henfield.
to ask him to sign an entire article in a newspaper, a daily, and adopt the entire article as his own. I mean, that opposes the rules.
Senator Henfield, the overriding objective here is that we should not, that senators should not at any point in time mislead the Senate or mislead the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. If the senator cannot, anyone can look through an article and pick one or two quotations to support their point, which can be misleading. So then we have to look at the overriding and the overarching goal, which is not to mislead. Okay? I must ensure, as the chair, that the whole truth is told and not pick and pull from an article to support your point and ignore the remaining parts of the article. Now, I consider this part ended, and we must move on in the interest. We are going to move on now with President.
Madam President.
No.
Madam President, please.
Senator
We're trying to clarify
Hanfield.
the rules.
Senator Hanfield.
It is a matter of the course of debate.
Senator Hanfield, can you please take your seat so that we can
If you
proceed?
have issues with the
Can you
rules,
please
let me
take your
clarify
seat?
them.
Can you please take your seat? I have already stated my ruling on this matter,
And so your
and we
ruling-
are going to
so your ruling
proceed.
is that the member cannot quote from an article.
I have stated
or
my
adopt-
ruling on this matter.
adopt-
Can we please proceed?
That opposes the rules.
We need to proceed. It does not oppose the rules as far as I'm concerned.
Oh.
Senator Rubin, Ramin, can you please proceed? Thank
Madam
you.
President, I had realized for quite some time, because it happened in your absence, that the rule doesn't always apply straight across the board, because it is against the privilege, and that was part of the frustration. I've advised before that, we need to consult sometimes with the clerk in that regard. I agreed with Senator Leader Enfield stated, and I'm aware of it. But I think the eyes of the public are very, very open as relate to this in that regard. That is from in virtually everything we do in this Senate.
Madam
Every
President,
bill, every
that should
bill,
not
and
be
I am
allowed in the
speaking.
Senate. What do you mean by that statement?
I'll give you an example in this statement. You want
Senator-
an
No,
example?
you are
Do
impunching the
want an
chair. No,
example
no,
of
you
it?
cannot. No,
Senator-
that
Senator
should
rules,
not
you
be
want to go
allowed.
over
there.
Senator Ramming, Senator Rubin.
Man.
Do you
Senator-
want me to go over it?
Senator Ramming, can you please take your seat? Please take your seat, Senator Ramming.
I'm not implying I stated emphatically.
Senator Ramming, can you please resume your seat? Okay. Senator Ramming, can you please proceed with the debate and with what is relevant to what we are discussing? Thank you, Senator Ramming.
In areas such as Pinecrest that has water issues, that is very clear and known to the public. As in many other subdivisions throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas that have had the aforementioned issues that I would have discussed, from shabby workmanship to flooding, to poor infrastructure, et cetera, we find now that the Bahamian homeowners who make their single largest investment, especially those who tend to be traditionally targeted, but not mutually and exclusively targeted, those who are of middle or low income, those who may have difficulty otherwise qualifying for mortgages through the, and thus the mortgage corporation has its task. You find that these persons, for example, the Pinecrest homes will go for an average of about $60,000. At the end of the day, when you would have invested and paid your mortgage on these homes for an average of 25 years, at the average rate of probably 8%, those persons, when they would have satisfied their mortgage, would have paid about $375,000 for those homes that we call low cost. And there should be a guarantee that the infrastructure, that the quality of workmanship and materials used in those houses are such, and the development of the area is such, that when Bahamians whom we serve, we say we love, we look out for their best interests, make such an investment that at the end of the day, they're not left with holding a bag. They're not left with a house whose value remains stagnant, though at the end of the day, when they would have satisfied their mortgages, they would have paid in excess of twice or three times, easily 3-4 times what the house would have been worth. And this is actually very, very critical when we look at these things and we develop these lots, we develop these infrastructure within our country. I've heard and I've listened to the thought of so much due diligence, and there's so much effort and there's so much opportunities within the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, whereas we can actually provide opportunities for Bahamians to have home ownership in areas that are even better suited, that have been properly conditioned in advance of building, so that these investments maintain and increase in value over time, commensurate with the amount of money that will be paid for these homes. I've seen the Progressive Labour Party and their advancement for the home building initiative search for new ground, and they gave their reasons and abandoned the development on Prospect Ridge. And I think one of the statements we made with that was that there may be issues of flooding in certain portions of that property as well, which could have been easily mitigated. But I want to draw to the attention of the Bahamian people and also to the government and also to the Minister for Housing herself, a wonderful opportunity that has already been advanced and laid out sometime. And it was done from under our former Prime Minister, Hubert Ingram's time. In the same area, just shy of the Pinecrest, there was tremendous acreage of land owned by the Bakers family. I remember at length, the former Prime Minister sought in the interest of the Bahamian people to acquire most of that, a good chunk of that land. And the work was done to properly develop that in the interest of the Bahamian people and also to create a model for future developments. I know I raised this issue when I saw it. I was so massively impressed with our former leader. And, we were plunged into COVID and all these additional things. But these are tremendous opportunities for Bahamian people. And it serves as an example. I'm going to encourage the posting of this plan, which is called the South Beach Township. And permit me to read an excerpt that shows some of the ideas and design behind it. The South Beach Township. And this was done, and the work was done by Prime Minister Hubert Alexander Ingram. And it was the plan that was set to be launched, but obviously administration changed, so the plan was stopped, but the work was done. The land has already been secured. The plans was done. The master plan has been done. I haven't seen for a development yet, even the Pinecrest, a master plan. I'm not saying that there isn't, but I haven't seen one. But this is the master plan for that. And the summary of the master plan is as such. It said the South Beach Township will serve as a demonstration for how new development in the Bahamas can break off the pattern of the unsustainable development that has masked most growth in the country in recent decades. Through a commitment to create a community that is environmentally, socially, and economically sustainable, the master plan will strive to create a development pattern that, 1, respects Bahamian values and culture. 2, provide all the needs of daily life within a short walk, including community facilities, shops, and public spaces. Next, offering a range of housing options for Bahamians of different ages, incomes, and lifestyles. And that's very, very important, because it is not just sufficient to, and I'm cautious of the language of how many times we keep saying the poor, the poor, the poor, the poor. And the Bible says the poor will always be with us. But I'm cautious about the language that we use, which does not inspire, in some instances, even the best or the persons who may be in a state of poverty, which can be temporary, and rise above that with future endeavors. I'll give you an example. Some of our best athletes came from family islands and of modest means. Our prime ministers came from small areas and modest lanes. So Lyndon and Perry Glaston Christie, your father was a taxi cab driver. You see Dr. Minnis, whose father used to own a service station, and he grew up as a shoeshine boy. I believe also Philip Brave Davis. And it shows that with the right inculcation in the mind of people, instead of just looking at them and calling them poor, looking at them and believing in them and seeing what you can do to help elevate them can bring about a massive change in their life. And that includes how we develop our communities. And communities should not be a blanket cookie cutter type design that tends to, if you notice in many instances, evolve into an environment that you may not necessarily like. It gets a ghetto feel. But it should allow for persons to be able to express themselves. It should allow for persons to be able to acquire and develop homes according to the standard where they are. And it should definitely provide, through the nature and the state of the development, that a homeowner could develop such equity within their home as we had intended with the service lot from day one, that even in the event that they do end up in the unlikely event of foreclosure, that the home could be sold in a way and the property could be sold in a manner in which it could accrue, not only pay off the debt, but the persons could actually get a return to be able to continually bounce back and develop their lives. We've seen many Bahamians who would have had rags to riches stories. One of them would have been Ontario, who with a small grant of $5,000 Ontario Metro Bahama striping. Small grant, $5,000 sold his car. You see where Bahama striping is right now. And I do believe if many persons here right now look within themselves, you'll find probably in the Senate many great achievers who would have had come to less affable means and found themselves elevated to different places in different stages of life. And so in these development, the development must truly reflect the culture and the values of the Bahamian society. It also celebrates the design, and I'm talking about the design in the South Beach Township, is to celebrate the rich history of the Bahamian town building architecture and design. Now that is very beautiful. I remember with the Marina Village development of Jackson Burnside and the work that he did with Marina Village, people appreciate the ambiance and the environment. We try to maintain the aesthetics of Bay Street because the charm and the history of it also adds value to it. And so in this development that was laid out under Prime Minister Ingram, it will enhance those things. It also excels in the design in terms of excellence and the variety of offerings in terms of home. It minimizes negative impact on the environment. That is very, very important, because I'll give you, for example, if an area that you're in right now settles water and the homes across from it have never had a issue with, no major issue with watering, then when that area becomes filled, it's like a swampland, concrete, the fill become compacted. And what happens is then you have runoff. And what happens with the runoff is that the runoff now spills over into homes which may not have had a traditional problem, or it may cause additional flooding in the roads in those areas. And so studies need to be done to ensure that the water table could absorb certain amount of rains. We should have studies on the amount of rains that we have annually in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, or if it cannot absorb it, there must be piping to allow for the water to be moved to another location. The communities that would be built in the South Beach Township will also generate economic activities for the Bahamians and that. One of the things that causes value in property and purchases is proximity to amenities and government agencies in and of itself. If anybody would take a look at their home appraisal, you'll see they would say X amount of distance from as simple as a bus stop or a post office or a police station. And all those informs, or a food store, all those informs the value of the property that persons are to be purchasing. It also has to complement rather than compete with, and this is an example, the downtown mystique. So it will have a feel to it. We want tourists to expand their wings and go further out around the islands. And so when we move towards, for instance, if you were to go on Marshall Road further down, people say it's like a family island feel. And there's certain areas as simple as if you come off Shirley Street and come over the hill, I think Mount Rose Hill, and that little area below the hill, you have a type of a family island feel in that regard. It establishes a balanced transportation system that further quality facilities for walking, for biking, and also to accommodate the existing jitney system. Now that's a major problem that we have right now, reaching into those areas. We see persons in the southwest section of Marshall Road right now still suffering as a result of not being able to have public transportation. So when we look at the development, I want to show us some of the examples on this. Some of the things that should this administration decide to take advantage of this 300-odd acre of land that is poised significantly on canal front. The design in the township has already been laid out. It would afford tremendous opportunity for us to advance and elevate our people. I want us to understand. Yeah, and the minister administration was starting to follow up on it. And
Senator Pinder, would you like to stand to your feet?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. And so, yeah, there's always a point of view, hey? There's always a point of view. And so this was submitted, and I want them to consider it because I think it's very, very significant for us to consider things like this it is incredible. Because here we have, and it was.
Madam President.
You know
The chair. Is that
Madam
Senator
President.
The chair recognizes Senator Pickstock.
I stand here
Senator
to
Romney, can you please-
try and determine the relevance. So that's my point. What's the relevance of this right now? We are here and we are debating a resolution, right? What is the relevance? No, what is the relevance of this right now? Right? Yes, I am going to ask it.
Thank you, Senator Pickstock. Senator Romney, can you please resume?
Thank you very much. The point of the standard, the point of the standard is in the debate. Right. Yeah, we should get some of my time back for that back and forth. But I'll give examples of
Senator Romney, I just want to advise you that you have 2 more minutes.
I just want to point out quickly in some of the designs you see right here. And the over 290-odd acres worth of land. Very, very good constituted land. It's amazing, right on the plan here, it has that the drainage estimates is also going to be considered into this plan. This area is about 6 feet above sea level with an additional elevation of 1 foot that will go above sea level in that regard. So it is good prime land that is much better than some of the areas recently chosen. We also see here in the South Beach Township. You
I'm
cannot
sorry
interrupt
again.
my time. It's South Beach
no,
Township.
I stand again
Senator Raming,
on a point of order. The member just stated just now that the proposed plan that never came into existence under the F&M administration, under the Hubert Ingram administration, or the Hubert administration is some of the best land, better than the land that is proposed right now. Please provide us with the relevant evidence that suggests the assertion that you just made, because that's very technical.
Brother, as a fisherman, and you fish with worse bait than the whole entire world. I'm presenting you the whole document generated by the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. I'm standing here telling you that the land is 6 feet above sea level, which is far much more than the land in the Pinewood area, and in that regard, 6 feet above. 6 feet above. See, Pinewood and the related area don't even have that privilege. And I could bring the counter. I could bring that right here. And it is canal front. It also would have beach access. The thing about it is with this, and this is the problem. The senator before me spoke about willing to hear. Listen, you don't have to adopt it, But we talking about opportunities here. We talking about acreage here. We talking about something that is being outlined that allow Bahamian families to have access to many diverse variations of housing and land that will increase in value and land that actually is currently available to the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas right now. And quite frankly, you don't have to do what you don't want to do. But it is here, and the work has been done by competent, professional architect, designer, and it was something commissioned by the Commonwealth, the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas at that time. And as I would have stated, this would have actually been out in full force, and obviously, again, like we said, an election caused that this did not come into fruition. In short, and very, very simple, if we are looking for land and looking at opportunities to expand the home inventory or land operations for people in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, it is sad that you can sit here and get a sense of unreasonableness for persons in this administration to even consider land that is out there. And what I'm simply presenting to them is an opportunity that is out there with designs that will give them something to think about, something to look at, and something to move on with. It is not uncommon for any administration to have leaps and break-in opportunities and break-in cycles. But the reality is, if you want to develop and you are so anxious with the housing agenda, you have an opportunity where you have land which could accommodate up to 2,000 lots of varying sizes and homes, not in a crowded situation, with 73 acres of green space and community space, with the design for all the infrastructure and the facilities to be inside of it, and an opportunity for Bahamian people,
Madam
for the
President,
average
I
Bahamian
stand on the point of order.
for the average
The chair, the chair recognizes Senator Tyrell Young.
I just want to reiterate
What is the point of order?
point of order is for the senator to state the clarification, actually the relevance, again, of what this document has to do 15 years later, because it's not going anywhere, and he is not bringing the point forward with the relevance to the matter that we're discussing as far as the housing resolution.
Thank you, Senator Young.
I can let you
Senator Rami.
It's amazing. Let me summarize this for you in a very simple way. One of the largest land development recently was Albany. And it's occupied by a lot of well-off people. Excellent development. Now we have a design and a model and an acreage land that has canal access. It also has beachfront access to it. Now we have an opportunity for these same average Bahamian people that we are talking about building these homes for at $60,000. That's going to be paid out at the cost of $370,000 when it's finished paid for. We have land in an area that could literally be the Bahamian Albany. And before they even look at it, they're shooting it down as a panacea. Even if you don't like the plan, the land is there. And Prime Minister Hubert Alexander Ingram has gotten the land in the interest of the government, and he has taken that allotment of land away from the bakers, and the land is there. And the land is there. The land, so if somebody wants to build a house, the senator is more concerned with couldn't, shoulda, woulda, coulda. You are here now. And the land is there. Almost 300 acres is there. And it is secure. And it's very simple. If you don't want to give it to the Bahamian people, then don't do it. When we come in again, I know as for me, if I'm around, I am going to push that this development and it comes to fruition, as I would have brought this to the attention, but it was during the time of the COVID, when I found out about it, and I said, wow. So now I'm bringing it to your attention. And no, we was in COVID at that time, and we know what's happening right now. Now, see, unlike you all, unlike you all,
Order.
unlike the current administration, who is
Order.
current
Order. Senators,
unlike the
order.
administration, who seem to think that the
Senators,
pandemic ended at the 15th of September.
Order, senators. Order.
I did more than you who wasn't here.
Order. Please proceed, Senator Romney.
Thank you. In my wrap up, unlike the current administration, which seemed to think that the pandemic had ended on September 16th and not realizing what was going around. And if we were to apply the same logic that they tried to apply, that at the height of the worldwide shutdown and COVID, that it did not cost a government to adapt, improvise, and overcome, and prioritize things, then I want to see how they're going to run with their wild imagination, this administration, and run even during this time. The increase of COVID in the United States is spiking in every state. There are other countries around the world locking down. I'm not advocating that. But what I'm simply saying now, we need to be prudent with things that we actually have in hand and look at it and consider it in the interest of the Bahamian people. It is as simple as that. We are still in a crisis right now. We are still in a situation right now where economic projections that has been forecast recently show that we are in serious straits, where we have to make up ground much more than we are doing right now. But even now, in the midst of this, we cannot in one breath saying we're trying to help the Bahamian people, but in the other breath, heckle over a fact of somebody showing you something that is here that you could use to help the Bahamian people. Could use to help the Bahamian people. And this was something considered by the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and if you don't want to use it, you don't have to use it. But as it relates right now, we cannot keep going the way we have been going, where we've been building houses over the years and they become dilapidated, or they have to be built-dos, or they have to be renovated all over again. Or at the end of the day, in some instances, the value of those houses does not keep pace with market value. That is the real concern here. So if by building it in the right zone, if by building it on better property, if by building it in areas that Bahamians can actually have equity in the land, that's true wealth that we can have. And that was the objective of the former administration when we had made the decision during that time, that there are many Bahamians who could afford these lots and they can have tremendous equities in their lots. So with that, Madam President, I take my seat and I commend this 300-odd acre into the hands of the Progressive Liberal Party.
As many? The chair recognizes Senator Darren Pickstock.
Yeah, you could. You could. Yeah, you could.
Madam President,
They're ready once they're done.
fellow senators, good morning.
The chair recognizes Senator Darren Pickstock. Senator Darren Pickstock is speaking. Can you please pay attention?
Madam President, fellow senators, good morning. I would first like to start with paying tribute. Yes, it is on. Thank you. I would first like to start by paying tribute to the brave young Marines of the HMBS Flamingo who lost their lives during an attack by Cuba on the 10th of May, 1980. Their names are Fenric Stirrup, Austin Smith, David Tucker, and Edward Williams. They made the ultimate sacrifice, Madam President. Shall we never forget their sacrifice? I'd also like to congratulate my fellow senator and the Attorney General, Senator the Honorable Ryan Pinder, the Lion, on his nuptials. Yeah. Madam President, I would like to start by clarifying a few points that were made previously with regard and with respect to the assertions that were made that were attributed to the Honorable Minister of Transport, Housing, the Honorable Jo Beth Colby. Madam President, I would like to read into the record and adopt them as my own, the article in the Nassau Guardian of today's date. And these are, this is an article and it is statements made by the Honorable Member of Transport and Housing, the Honorable Jo Beth Colby. And I quote, speaking to reporters before yesterday's weekly cabinet meeting, Colby Davis said, while she does not want, and I quote, to acknowledge silliness, the government has a drainage plan that the Ministry of Works will implement during phase 2 of the project's development. Madam President, I'd like to just pause there because what I would like to do at this time is I would like to lay on the records the drainage plan for Pinecrafts. Right?
Nobody said you did nothing. We said you'll do it in phase 2. No, we said you'll do it in phase 2.
Developments have phases.
And that is the draft.
What development is there that doesn't have phases?
Madam President, I further quote the Honorable Minister of Transport and Housing, the Honorable Jo Beth Colby. It's a construction site, and clearly no fill has been added to the property as yet. Plus, we are still constructing. There has been no soil, no landscaping, and so it is apparent that there are mischief makers around trying to discourage the potential homeowners. We have a lot of persons who are excited to be homeowners at the Pinecrest subdivision, and I am excited about the work that is happening there. The timeline is really impressing me because this is the first time persons have seen this sort of movement in a government subdivision program, she said. In August 2021, many who wanted to be homeowners didn't know the first step or what the timeline was for them to become homeowners. And now, 9 months later, they can actually see that their keys will be in their hands very soon. So I don't really want to focus on the stuff that's been going around. I am working closely with every agency that has been set up to assist us with the subdivision. We have a lot of plans coming out of the infrastructural work, and the Ministry of Works has been partnering with us. It is in the constituency of the Parliamentary Secretary for the Ministry of Works. So I can assure that all that needs to be addressed were there. It is not an area that has been prone to flooding. It's just that maybe we had hard rain. And I indicated previously, as I stated, it's a construction site, and clearly no fill has been added to the property as yet. Plus, we are still constructing. It's just that we had some hard rain, and you would have some water settle at one portion of the road. It's a construction zone, and that typically happens when you have a lot of rain and you haven't provided the fill yet. I am confident that it will be a beautiful place for people to raise their families. There have been consistent downpours and rainstorms in the past week, in particular over the past weekend. The government broke ground for the subdivision in late January. Madam President, end quote.
Are you going to table those documents?
Absolutely, Madam President. Madam President, the member my fellow Senator, Mr. Ramming, also alluded to the fact that he had not seen a plan. I would like to also lay over a summary of that plan that Mr. Ramming had indicated that he had not seen. Perhaps he wasn't looking close enough. You can go to the ministry. That's public, yeah. It's public now, but you can go to the Ministry of Works, where public documents are held.
Please speak to the chair, Senator Pinecrest.
It's all public there.
Thank you, Senator Pinecrest. Thank you.
Madam President, I begin my contribution with a quote from a Bahamian statesman who will long be followed and admired in this country. And I quote, "A man's home is his castle. Any turn away from home is a turn in the wrong direction. And when you are on the wrong track, you must turn back. You have to get back on the right track. Putting people in their home is the right track." End quote. Madam President, these are the words of Celindan Pindling. our founding father of majority rule, 1967. National independence and the independent constitution of 1973. Longest serving political party leader and a prime minister who served our nation for a quarter of a century. As we ponder this resolution before us today, to give support to its noble ideals, which will cause the Ministry of Housing to have added to its inventory of available land on the island of New Providence, these 35.44 acres. The words of Prime Minister Pindling ought to motivate and energize all of us. On this property will be 146 new residential houses and 100 residential lots. Madam President, there is no greater purpose of which we serve as lawmakers and as legislators than to do things and do acts which make life and the purposes of life more comfortable, affordable, available, and consistent for all of our fellow citizens, to leave no one behind, and to go back to check and to make sure no one is left behind. And accordingly, Madam President, acceding to this resolution is one such noble a purpose of our call to serve and duty to the Bahamian people. Madam President, I want to refer to how the Ministry of Housing is changing the dynamics with the creation of the Pinecrest subdivision. The ministry is being very transparent in giving notice, not to just Bahamian people, but to the world, that the standards and climatological concerns are front and center. This is what the ministry is indicating, and I quote liberally from my notes and from what I have ascertained independently. The homes at Pinecrest exceed minimum government construction standards in every respect, so that they are more hurricane resistant. Specifically, all homes will be outfitted with high velocity zone hurricane impact windows. Roofs will be covered with upgraded higher velocity rated architectural shingles. Although homes in the area of Pinecrest do not have a history of flooding, the new homes will be constructed using higher foundations that exceed Ministry of Works minimum standards. In addition to the above, upgrades requested by the Ministry of Housing, the contractor will adopt advanced construction technology that will result in even stronger homes. The exterior walls of the homes will be built with 8-inch concrete blocks filled with high-strength cement and steel core block filled system. This will result in a home that is significantly stronger than conventional concrete block homes, as the exterior walls will be solid concrete and steel. The homes are subject to an incredibly vigorous system of inspections led by the Ministry of Works. Additionally, there are 2 licensed structural engineers, one of whom is stationed at the site inspectors from the public-private partnership and the Ministry of Housing. Finally, at completion, a private sector inspector will provide a report to the entity providing financing for the homes. Simply put, this is the most vigorous system of inspection ever implemented and shows our government's commitment to building better, stronger, and more resilient homes. Preliminary plans for the master planning of the additional phases, which will be built on the parcel, will create approximately 100 additional residential lots, together with open spaces, land reserved for the development of parks and community amenity areas. This would result in the land being transferred to the Minister of Housing, accommodating 147 homes for deserving Bahamian families. As it relates to the elevation, flooding, and sea level rise, New Providence, like other islands, is vulnerable to storm surges during hurricane. Government is committed to increasing the resiliency of homes built in our country and considers the elevation of the land in planning. The homes presently under construction are being built on land with elevations between 7 and 14 feet above mean sea level, above the Ministry of Works minimum standard. I reiterate that the homes presently under construction are being built on land with elevations between 7 and 14 feet above mean sea levels. This is above the Ministry of Works minimum standard. Consequently, the lots prior to any grading to rise the sea level further will sit at approximately 9 feet above minimum requirements. The elevation of the land and drainage plan combined with the additional foundation height will make the homes at Pinecrest less vulnerable to flooding from storm surges. Madam President, it is also time for great history and reflection. As you know, I love to go back in history so we understand. The government, which was elected in September of 2021 in a snap general election, seems to have done its homework. Prime Minister Davis and his new PLP administration committed very early in their national campaign to an aggressive public housing agenda, and indeed formalized that commitment with even stronger assertions in the speech from the throne, which was debated in this place. History will show that the former Free National Movement government did not build any public housing during its eventful 4+ years in office from 2017 to 2021. This is a fact which should be given notice. I make this point, Madam President, because this was unusual. Every government of the Bahamas, which was elected post the 1962 Constitution, right up until the Minnis administration assumed office in 2017, saw public housing as a core part of the people's social and economic mobility. We must examine why the former administration stumbled and fell in this most critical area of building a middle-class society and giving more financially challenged Bahamians the opportunity to own their own homes. 3 leaders of government in the Bahamas, Premier Theodore Simonet, Prime Minister Lyndon Pindling, Prime Minister Hubert Alexander Ingram, and Prime Minister Perry Gladstone Christie, have, as part of their legacies, the national public housing agenda they administered. Only Prime Minister, Dr. the Most Honorable Hubert A. Minnis, has nothing to show or declare on his report card on public housing. Yes, Dr. Minnis sold a bad dream about housing schemes for the elites. And even in that regard, nothing happened. No proven title to the land of which he spoke. No head under any budget line item to finance the illusion. No money, no environmental impact assessment on proposed property. 4 years, 4 months in office, and the Minnis F&M government did not put up so much as a lemonade stand. Yeah, they were too. They were too busy arresting the coconut guys who were trying to make a living. The buck did not just fumble with Dr. Minnis. It fumbled with those who sat around the table with him and who also saw no compelling reason to turn back because they were on the wrong track and to make real and tangible the creation of affordable public housing. Madam President, even the minority UBP government under Premier Roland Simonet had the vision to take chunks of the old Oaksfield Airport and to create the Big Pond subdivision. And the UBP put in the early framework and foundational infrastructure for the first phase of Yellow Elder Gardens. The majority rule Progressive Liberal Party government under Lyndon Pendling were the UBP quadrupled where the UBP left off. The PLP, as part of its masterful nation building agenda, created the Ministry of Housing. The PLP created the Housing Corporation and eventually the Mortgage Corporation, which is led by Barbara Cartwright. Houses were popping up out of the ground, and Bahamian ownership of those houses brought about the new and enduring national pride. The PLP did not stop there. It manifested the Grantstown Urban Renewal Program and rental units, retirement units, and renovations to existing houses. All of that took place under the Progressive Liberal Party. Historians of tomorrow will explore the irony in a political party which dressed itself in the poetry of "It's the people's time," found no time to build the people a house, not one single house, a roof, some windows, a front door, a back door, a kitchen, a porch, a living room, bedrooms, so families could taste the good life and children everywhere would have the dignity and pride of saying the roof over their head belongs to them. Sir Lyndon Oscar Pinland in 1979 appointed Perry Gladstone Christie, the Honorable, then Minister of Health and Housing, as a commando of the social revolution, which saw the revolution in this country of private, public, affordable housing and the advent of a number of Bahamian-owned construction companies who got into the business of affordable housing for the emerging middle class. The Honorable Hubert Alexander Ingram would succeed Mr. Christie as minister with responsibility for housing, and again, on Mr. Ingram's PLP watch, houses were popping up out of the ground. When Mr. Ingram became Prime Minister in 1992, leading an F&M government, he took the PLP lesson book with him. Again, the Ingram F&M government carried on with an aggressive housing agenda. The F&M Minister of Housing, Algernon Allen, was happy to boast that he stood on the shoulders of other performing housing ministers in previous governments. The Honorable Perry Gladstone Christie served as Prime Minister from 2002 to 2007, and again from 2012 to 2017, and the country again saw this groove of affordable housing under the PLP Minister Shane Gibson and Neville Wisdom. Madam President, this entire glorious trend is suddenly broken when the Minnis government came to office in 2017. Was there no one around the table who could say people are crying for home ownership and we should do something about it? Was there no one around the table who could say to the Prime Minister when he announced his elite housing dream while under significant political pressure, look, Mr. Prime Minister, you can fool some of the people all of the time, but you cannot fool all of the people all of the time. Was there no minister who sat around the table who had a heart, any empathy or feelings for the Bahamian single mother, the Bahamian single father, the widow, the orphaned, not one person in the FNM, and they were dropping the ball. They were on the wrong track. People needed to be given an opportunity to own their own roof. Madam President, it could very well be that anyone who sat around the table between 2017 and 2021 and did not lift a finger, not one, to change the direction in which they were going and stop, pause for just a brief second to say, what are we doing? For more than 45 years in this country, the Bahamian people had governments which put roofs over their heads, and here are we boasting that it's the people's time. Madam President, there are some who may feel that my criticism is combative. It is not. If we cannot be criticized in public life, if we are too thin-skinned or so righteously correct, even when we are reverently incorrect, we will see the same mistakes happen again and again. We cannot afford to have governments who, out of their flawed policies or rank incompetence, cause the people and the nation to suffer. The Minist government had no excuse, none whatsoever. They had before them the history of Sir Rowland, Sir Linden, Mr. Ingram, and Mr. Christie before to guide them. I will borrow a quote from the leader of the official opposition. No, I will borrow one word, a very emotive word the leader of the opposition uses quite frequently to define that period of 2017 to 2021. And Madam President, that word is arrogance. It is arrogance. The leader of the official opposition laments in that other place every time it meets, which he says caused him to be sitting on the opposite side of that place from when he first arrived. Madam President, the Prime Minister has put the portfolio of housing in the hands of a very capable, professional, and honest minister, the Minister of Transport and Housing, the Honorable JoBeth Colby. Before her appointment, this lady has demonstrated her fitness and her integrity. Her constituents say that they can feel her heartbeat when they are in her presence and with her. Such is her passion for people and her determination to admirably perform and secure the mandate given to her by the Prime Minister in his speech from the throne. This Minister of Housing will continue to be the political target for an aggrieved and bitter politician who seems to also have the disease peculiar to most persons who sat around the table with the former Prime Minister. It is a terrible disease called total and absolute political acute shock syndrome. Jah licked them with this disease. When you are arrogant, self-centered, and you let down so many people who were hoping you were their great red hope to a new rock with dock and let them down totally. Madam President, I term it TAAPSS, which is total and absolute acute political shock syndrome. It causes the patient to have systemic convulsions of revenge and bitterness, and they have to get their hired hacks and cashless political hatchet men to go after perceived enemies. The Minister of Housing in this PLP administration will have to put on the whole armor of heaven because her opponent is so ashamed and so shell-shocked after the election, he may not know how to turn off his revenge switch. I admonish the minister to take comfort in the words of the man from Galilee who said, "Do not worry about those who lie and abuse you and say all manner of evil against you, but rather rejoice, because these haters behave the very same way to others. Haters are gonna hate. It may take the leadership of the sincere and intelligent women of the F&M to use their power and their sisterhood to say to the aggrieved sufferers of the total and absolute acute political shock syndrome to diagnose himself, write his own prescription, and get over it. Simply get over it. You lost. Madam President, I want to express my admiration and confidence in the Minister of Housing and the team of public servants who are working in that ministry to achieve the mandate given to them by the Honorable Prime Minister. I am particularly happy in noting how the climatological 21st data and situation is worked into the architectural and environmental design of the proposed houses in this Pinecrest subdivision. The Honorable Prime Minister, having made such an impassioned plea at the Glasgow Climate Conference last year on our nation's tender vulnerabilities to rising sea levels, it is clear and present that a new building code to reflect our realities is in the making. Madam President, there can be no shortcuts in workmanship, technology, design of these new houses, no inferior materials, no knockoffs or fraudulent material, site inspections with the highest integrity, severe penalties for persons who break the law or compromise the building code and approved plans. Corruption, the country is done with you. This subdivision will be our answer to the chronic flooding during high tides in certain poorly planned and laid out districts of the country. To achieve this high and most necessary standard will no doubt cost more. Hurricane impact windows, concrete and steel for the walls of the house rather than traditional cement block, roof tiles which can groove in gale force and hurricane force winds and torrential rains, yard space and green areas and parks so children do not have to play in the streets because the lot can only hold the house and a small half of the car. Lot space where residents don't park their vehicles on the residential sidewalks. This is the new day. This is the new way. I commend the government for its intended partnership with private enterprises in this ambitious housing initiative. Madam President, such private partnerships in public housing were first introduced by Algernon Allen when he served as Minister of Housing in the Hubert Ingraham government. Once again, we saw how good governance continues with bold, provocative, and transformational platforms and programs. I support this resolution to allow the treasurer to transfer or convey the title or fee simple in the land or property described in the schedule of the resolution. Let today be written down in history on these 3 points. 1, where we in this place pause for just a brief moment in time to reflect on how one administration, the first time in 40 plus years, built not one single house. Secondly, that climate change in our concern for the environment demands a new building and subdivision protocol, which will save lives, give occupants of homes more protection with an emerging national building code concurrent with the times in which we live. And finally, above all this, we move on resolute in our determination to just always do better and be at our best for the Bahamian people. This Honorable Senate is uniquely qualified to pass this litmus test. Madam President, the country is back on track. I thank you.
Thank you, Senator Pickstar. As many. The chair recognizes Senator Seymour, Maxine Seymour.
Thank you, Madam President. I stand to speak on the resolution before the Senate, the housing resolution. That is before the Senate. And before I get started, Madam President, I see the future Senate is now in the Senate. So I'm pleased and very excited to welcome the youth parliamentarians to the Senate because, of course, they will obviously switch seats with us at some point, and I guess retired will come in and listen to the Senate, but they'll be sitting here and we'll be sitting there. But for right now, they're sitting there. And so welcome to all of you. I see at least two familiar faces in Shelby, Bowe, and Alan White, definitely future parliamentarians, as are the others. And Madam President, I myself was a youth parliamentarian in the late 90s. With the likes of Cassius Stewart, actually. He was in my cohort, and we enjoyed that experience, got that exposure, and now here I am today. So I want to encourage them to stay on track and to stay focused, because of course you are the future of our country, the future leaders, and I know that great things are coming out of all of you, and I hope that I'll be able to get to know you all a bit better as time goes by, but definitely welcome to all of you, a special welcome to Shelby and Alan in particular. Madam President, as discussed here so far today, the right to shelter, as the person, Honorable Senator Alcides, who would have tabled this resolution, would have referenced Maslow and his pyramid. The need for a home, for shelter, for somewhere to live, somewhere to belong is a basic human need. And as would have recurred when many of the senators spoke, the home purchase itself is the largest investment that most people will ever make under normal circumstances. And so when it comes to home ownership and purchasing a home, you have to take it really seriously. It's not as if you get some comforters and you really don't like how they taste, so you toss them and you move on and remember not to go to that particular vendor anymore. But a home is not that simple. Once you acquire it, it's yours. It's yours for life, it's yours to stay, and you want it to be a lasting treasure. And of course, many of the persons who purchase homes in our country, especially the more affordable homes that are constructed by the government, or in some cases that they're allowed to construct under some government subdivision opportunity, are women. And we know that women are industrious. They have to take care of their children. They know how to save, stretch a dollar, put a little bit aside toward the home purchase and to really make ends meet. And so we want the investment to be solid, as solid as a rock, to borrow a slogan from the PLP in years past. We want the home investment to be solid, Madam President, because even us as children growing up in Sunday school, we learned that, only a foolish person would build a house on a sand, and a wise man on a rock, because you want it to last. You want it to stand the test of time. And so, Madam President, when persons purchase homes, they don't just purchase homes for themselves, Madam President. They actually purchase homes for their children and for generations yet unborn, because a home purchase is a generational type investment. And very recently, I had an opportunity to meet a young Bahamian citizen, the most adorable citizen ever, Madam President, 6 months old, Malachi Hepburn. He had 2 little teeth at the bottom row, and he was in his carrier, just enjoying life, playing with his toy. And his parents, who are the owners and operators, I think, of Serenity Funeral Home, if I recall, they introduced me to young Malachi. And like I said, he was so happy and so precious. And what I would like to say is that when those parents and any other parents decide to acquire a home, they acquire with persons like young Malachi in mind, because they're not just purchasing the home for themselves for today, but they're purchasing the home so that it could remain in the family for generations to come. So that when that 6-month-old Malachi grows up, if he chooses, he can interact with the home in whatever way. He may want to sell it, he may want to live in it, he may want to give it to one of his children. And nowadays, in a community and an environment, especially with the rising inflation and, the increase in costs on certain bread basket items and all of the other responsibilities that come with the cost of fuel and things like that, it's really difficult for everyone to get a home, Madam President. And so what happens is, oftentimes, children, they decide to go and move into a home, a family home, and they may expand that home or add a bedroom onto that home. Or maybe their parents, as they age and get older and need some support, they decide to move in with the parents and stay in the home so that they could support the parent. Sometimes it's a transitional type solution while they build their own home so that they could save on rent. So they live in the home and they save while they, really try to attain their own home. Perhaps life or a marriage might not work out or go as you intended, or you may get into a little bout of unemployment. And so again, you have to go back to that homestead and just live for a little while. Perhaps, unfortunately, your parents might pass away. And so you decide that you would remodel the house and take it over and live there. Or a grandchild might get it in a will, or, like I said, an elderly parent might need special care and may move out of the home to live with a child in another neighborhood. And so what happens is the children may come together and decide to resell that home. And of course, you want to be able to attract a suitable buyer years later. Even if the home has been standing for 20, 30, 40 years, you still want to be able to possibly remodel it, sell it, flip it, whatever it is that you choose to do. And so that home needs to be a solid investment. It needs to really be able to stand the test of time, be properly constructed, and be able to last beyond even the initial buyer, but for generations to come. And Madam President, as referenced here already today, indeed, some persons, when they're having a birthday party, they go to the bakery and they buy a couple dozen cupcakes. And some persons, they go to the food store, the grocery store, and they buy some flour, sugar, eggs, and milk. And so indeed, the last administration did take another approach, Madam President. That administration decided that they would allow for persons to have a say in how the home is constructed. The vision was to be able to, as a homeowner, envision what it is you want to see and what it is you want to live in, what it is you want to build, and to be able to be a part of that process from the ground up. And so every administration may not necessarily build homes. Some administrations, like the past administration, decided that instead of simply putting keys in someone's hands, that they would put in the infrastructure and sell the lots at cost so that homeowners could use some of that equity towards qualifying for a loan or toward the down payment for a loan. And so it's all about preference, Madam President. And so the last administration, that was the approach in order to have persons of vision in Carmichael Village, to have them, be able to build their own homes and import building material duty free.
How many lots?
And I'll tell you, Madam President, in that case in particular, Madam President, persons were already, they went through the application process, they went to mortgage corporation, they qualified, they were already assigned lots in some cases, and these are the people that we need to know what's happening with them, what's happening with those lots if they were already assigned them, and are they going to still, is that going to be honored? Because we know that governments are continuous, Madam President. So whether or not you decide to purchase the cupcakes or if you decide to bake them, the reality is that when it comes to home ownership, Madam President, that whether or not you build it or manage the construction process yourself, or whether or not it's built for you. The point of the matter is that the investment should be a lasting one. And Madam President, in any particular housing subdivision, there are concerns about quality, Madam President. And so the point of the matter is that every subdivision that a government constructs should align with engineering structural code. And we talk about flooding, Madam President, which by definition is the covering or submerging of normally dry land with a large amount of water. And the reality is that if an area floods or if an area collects water in places where water should not be, it causes challenges to new residents or residents who are potential homeowners in addition to existing residents. And so, Madam President, we all want to own a home, but we want that home not to be substandard. We want it to be a quality home that I said could last for generations to come, generations yet unborn. And so, although I do see images, and some were shown here today, of flooding in the new Pinecrest subdivision, I hope that it does not flood. Because when a young single mother acquires a home and has other responsibilities, we don't want her to have to now maintain a home and be concerned with the flooding. I remember when I was campaigning, I went to a particular home and I couldn't believe it until I saw it with my own eyes. Everything in that home was on blocks, Madam President. Literally, the sofa, you couldn't sit on it. It was on blocks and like high up in the air. All of the nice furniture, dining room tables, everything was literally on blocks. And I asked him, how do you get it? How do you sit on it? What do you do? And he said that he doesn't sit on it. He doesn't use it. He doesn't access it. He's just trying to save the furniture because of, over time, the flooding and what has happened. And so we don't want persons to have to live in a home where the furniture has to be on blocks. And so we have to pay careful attention to constructing the home, making sure we meet engineering standards, and making sure that, and even in filling in properties sometimes, that we don't create a challenge somewhere else for someone else who may have had no flooding. And now that we fill in a property, the water has to run somewhere. And so it may create flooding elsewhere. And so the point of the matter is we have to consider as government, and of course we know that governance is continuous, we have to consider what it would cost an ordinary Bahamian in terms of maintaining their property. So that is very important because single mothers, families, everyone, they need to be able to manage, Madam President. You don't want to get a home, which is such a great joy, and then you need to get a boat or jet ski to get to it. And so the reality is that in getting a home, you want to be able to maintain it. You want it to be a quality. You want it to last for generations to come. And you don't want to be, basically acquiring any problems, Madam President. And no new homeowner wants to be heading home and have their vehicles stalled out. That could be quite a terrifying experience for a child. I remember off Blue Hill Road, once my mom was taking a shortcut and I was heading to elementary school, and her little red Marina definitely did stall out with the flooding, and some persons in a big, it was called BEC back then, bucket truck, had to come in their boots and rescue me as a little girl. And I was terrified. I didn't know what to say or what to do. And so I wouldn't want to have any little girl heading home with a single mom driving and having to be stalled out just in the middle of water. And so the reality is that, if there is flooding, we just need to be aware of it and address it. And when we address it, not create a problem somewhere else and fixing that one problem. Madam President, my concern with the homes in Pinecrest based on the resolution today is, who will live in them? Madam President, just imagine going somewhere and standing on a long line for a long time and just waiting for the place to open. And you're standing outside the door. And then the time comes and the place opens and they tell you that they're not opening this particular door. They're opening the entrance further down. So now you realize that when you were to the front of the line and you had waited 4, 5, 6 hours to get inside, that now you're at the back of the line because that's not the door they opened. So it's very important as a government not to victimize or discriminate in any way. I'm sure that the Ministry of Housing is not short on applications because I'm going to explain it if you'd allow me, Honorable Senator. The reality is that there are applications in place already at the ministry that have been there, I'm sure, for quite some time. And so there's no need for a new application process. I want to say that there are people who for years have applied and have been waiting for a home.
Madam President, I stand.
Wait.
I was going to say.
Yeah. The chair recognizes Senator Pickstock.
Madam President, I stand on a point of order.
Please provide me with the point of order that you stand on.
Madam Senator, I'm just trying to, sorry, my colleague, sorry. It's misleading the public. Does she have any evidence to suggest that someone is being disenfranchised because she speaks to other doors being opened in the Ministry of Housing or wherever? You know, she's implying that something untoward is going on with respect to the applications for housing. And I just want to note, just so the public is not misled, because when we say things in this house, it is very important that we not mislead the public, right? Yeah, you know, and so I just need some clarification on that, please.
Senator Seymour?
Madam President, may I repeat what I said?
Please.
Thank you. I said that I hope, that's what I said, if we listen carefully, or, you know, I know in baseball and other sports, they have the playback. I said that I hope that none of this happens because I just, for example, talked about being at a retail store on a line, and I talked about another door being opened. And I said that as government, or as a government which is continuous, that we have to remember that persons have been, and I had started to say, online, their applications have been in for quite some time, and they've been waiting for homes. And then I said that I hope that those applications will be honored in the order in which they were submitted, because, for example, if anything else happens, it's very unfortunate to stand on a line for 4 to 5, 6 hours and find out that they open up another door. So now you thought you were at the front, but you're at the back. And that's all I said. That's all I said, Honorable Senator Pickstock. I didn't say anything more, although you want to put words in my mouth. Okay? And so the point of the matter is that, like I said, I'm sure that the Ministry of Housing is not short on applications, and that I hope that we are going through them in the order in which they were submitted.
Order, senators. Please proceed.
And so, like I was saying again, that I hope that we're going through them in the order in which they were submitted, because there's no need for the New Day government to open a new application process. Not that they are.
Madam President.
Not that they are, but there's no need. It's what I am saying.
Senator Seymour, can you yield, please? Senator Barry Griffin.
Madam
Chair
President,
recognizes Senator Barry Griffin.
I stand on a point of order. Again, I think the senator is misleading. I think the way in which the senator is speaking, she's making it seem as though there's been some application process for the Pinecrest subdivision already. If she's talking about an application process, please allow her to refer directly to which subdivision she's speaking about and the status of those particular subdivisions that people would have already applied for.
Thank you, Senator Griffin. Senator Seymour.
Madam President.
Wait, allow me to ask the question, please, Senator Seymour. Senator Seymour, there's what can I say? There's an issue with perhaps some ambiguity regarding the subdivision that you are referring to and the application process. Are you referring to? You can take stand, please.
Okay.
Wait. Which subdivisions? No, I want you to stand, please, Senator Seymour. Yes. What subdivision? Senators. Would you like to speak to what? To clarify exactly what subdivision are you referring to? The existing Pinecrest subdivision, or you're referring to a previous subdivision? just provide us
Thank you
additional
very much.
clarity. Thank you.
Thank you very
Senator
much, Madam
Seymour.
President.
Order, senators.
what I would-
Allow the senator to clarify, please. Thank you.
I would like to quote our deputy leader, the MP for St. Barnabas, Shannon Cartwright, who always says that a part of the role of opposition is not just to oppose, but to propose. And all I am doing is proposing to the New Day administration that when you are processing applications for any subdivision, not necessarily Pinecrest in particular, that you should consider the Bahamians who would have applied to the Ministry of Housing for affordable housing over the years and are awaiting response to their applications. Okay, so the reality is that there are people who have applied over the years and their applications sitting waiting, people who have gotten their down payment, and in some cases, very recently, even borrowed monies already because they were told certain lots would be assigned to them, for example, in the Carmichael community. And so I just want us to consider these Bahamians. I want us to consider these Bahamians as we move forward with the new Pinecrest and other subdivisions. That's all I'm doing. I'm just giving advice. Because the reality is, Madam President, if you allow.
Madam, just another point that she needs to clarify. Is the senator saying that Bahamians were promised? Is the senator saying that Bahamians were assigned or promised lots in the Carmichael Village subdivision that currently doesn't exist?
And they borrowed money.
Did they borrow money? Were they borrowed money?
No, for the down payment.
Did they borrow money on lots that there were no agreements for sale in place or conveyances in place? Please allow her to clarify. As far as we're aware, no agreements for sale were in place, no conveyances. I would like to know how they borrowed, how they were promised these lots. Could she please clarify her statement?
Thank you, Senator Griffin. Senator Seymour? Senator Seymour?
No, I'm not trying to do that, Madam President. I'm not trying to do that. All I'm trying to do is, as a member of Majesty's loyal opposition, I'm trying to propose to the government certain things, but obviously they're not trying to take my advice.
Senator
Okay?
Seymour. The good senator, Senator Seymour, the good senator. Order, senator, orders, please. Order, senators, order, please. Senator Seymour, Senator Griffin would like for you to kindly clarify the statement with respect to Carmichael Village and borrowing monies for a subdivision.
Yes.
Yes. Can you please? Thank you, Senator
Madam
Seymour.
President. There are Bahamians were assigned lots in some cases already in Carmichael Village, and they had to put together their down payment. And from what I understand, I will have to bring it back and table it.
So you have Senator Seymour. So you have no evidence to support Senator Seymour. Senator Seymour, you have no evidence to support this.
I don't have the hard.
Okay, would you like to withdraw until such time?
I will withdraw it until
At such time. Thank you, Senator Seymour. Please proceed. Order, senators. Senator Seymour has the floor. Thank you, senators.
And so,
The chair recognizes Senator Halkitis.
You want us to go? Give a few minutes or? Okay, Madam President, as we are at the lunch hour, I would like to move that the business of the Senate do suspend until 3 p.m. this afternoon.
Is there a seconder?
I second.
Prior to me ruling on the motion, senators, yes. Prior to me ruling on that motion, the chair recognizes and welcomes to the gallery the Youth Parliament, and we are very pleased to have you here with us today during this spirited and lively debate. We also wish you all the best for your upcoming debate in the House of Assembly that will be held on Friday, May 13th, 2022. We look forward to watching and supporting you, and we know that we are leaving the Bahamas in the best of hands. So we thank you for coming today. And I would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate Senator Ryan Pinder on his recent nuptials. He sure came back to the Senate with a lot more fire. And he's roaring even louder. So I say, may God bless you and may God bless your union. And I'd also like to wish all of the mothers in the Senate chamber a happy and a belated Mother's Day. And may God continue to bless you. And I also like to wish all of the mothers throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, the bedrock of our society, a wonderful and a happy and a belated Mother's Day. In particular, my 95-year-old aunt, Gwendolyn King of Fowler Street. I told her that I would specifically mention her today. I'd like to wish her a happy belated Mother's Day, and may God continue to bless her and continue to bless this Commonwealth of the Bahamas. So it has been moved and seconded that the business of this House continue at 3 p.m. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion is carried. The business of this House has been suspended until 3 p.m.